Well, hello, friends. Welcome to the Monkey Tooth Podcast. It's your pal, Andrew, bringing you this episode from Northern California with my new friend and hopefully yours, Lord Running Clam. I met Lord Running Clam through my friend and now business partner, Mr. Paul Shelton, and we hooked up via the internet to talk about writing and art and his past and his present and what hopes he has for the future. Really like the guy. I think you will too. I want to tell you, he's got some books for sale. It's wide-books.com. I've got links in the show notes. Please check it out. He's written some very interesting stuff, not the least of which is Ganymede Slime Mold on Tour, about his younger days doing political zines and kind of wild stuff around the country. Interesting character, Lord Running Clam. You're already here. Clearly you're going to listen. But before you do, I want to tell you about today's sponsor. It's a company called Sound Legacy. You can go to mysoundlegacy.com to learn more, or you can listen to the next several seconds of me telling you what it is. Oh, what is it, you say? Well, it's basically a podcast or a documentary film, but the guest or subject is your mom, your grandma, your aunt, someone you know and love whose story you want to preserve indefinitely. Myself and my business partner, Paul Shelton, the guy behind the camera right now who you cannot see, but you can feel him. We're doing this thing. We're out there collecting stories, helping people tell them in a way that's compelling, memorable, emotional, fun, and ultimately inheritable. So learn more, mysoundlegacy.com. And that's it. That was a commercial. That's done. It's out of the way. We're going to go to the episode. Lord Running Clam, my friend and yours. Until next time, adios.
Be good.
Okay, let's get this thing started, man. Lord Running Clam, I'm very pleased to meet you. I've heard a lot about you. It's funny for me to talk to you because I know so very little about Philip K. Dick. I've read one book of short stories, and I don't even remember the name of the book of short stories, but I remember liking it quite a bit. So I'm the wrong guy to talk to you about Philip K. Dick. But I think I'm the right guy to talk to you about you, Lord Running Clam, whose name I only know as Lord Running Clam. I'm sure you have another one.
My name is actually David Hyde.
David Hyde.
You can call me Dave, or you can call me what you want. Just don't call me late for dinner.
No problem. No problem. I can see why, the appeal of Lord Running Clam. Can you tell me about where did that name come from?
Well, it's a long story. I've told it to Paul. It comes from as a character in one of Philip K. Dick's novels titled Plans of the Alphane Moon, which is a story about a spaceship full of mental patients go into a mental asylum out in space somewhere, crash lands on another planet, and they have to form their own society. So they break into the old style psychological categories of manic depressives, obsessive compulsives, or all these categories, and of course they have their society, but then they get rediscovered again from Earth. And one of the characters on Earth is a Ganymede slime mold named Lord Running Clam. He's telepathic. He's overly friendly. He's pushy. Okay, and he helps the main character solve his marital problems in a sense. It's a very funny book. It's complicated, but my name comes from that novel. It was given to me by my wife Barbara back in probably 1984. It'd be 1984. After we read the novel, and me and my wife Barbara then, and her brother, whose name is John, but who went by the moniker Reverend Dr. X. Okay, so I was Lord Running Clam, Reverend Dr. X, and Barbara became Barb Morningchild. And we formed a little creative group in Indiana, which is where we were, Kokomo, Indiana, called the Ganymede Slime Mold. And we went out and we published political zines. We went to all kinds of dead concerts and all around the country on tour, handing out our literature out, talking about Philip K. Dick, because, as it was all about. And we did some videos this is back in the 80s, early 90s. We did some videos of a lot of demonstrations. We spent a lot of time in DC, New York, traveled all over the place, actually. It was a lot of fun for a year. And in this book that you held up, Pink Beam, and published it by myself in 2006 or 7. And I've done so much, man. You have to ask Craig. I'm petering out here.
No, it's good. You're fine, man. You're fine. I appreciate that because I know it's never a simple thing when you have any kind of name, any kind of nickname that's stuck the way yours has. It's always more of a story than just, well, so and so gave it to me. There's always more to it. So I get it.
Right.
So
I stuck by the name because I liked it, and it made me sort of stand out in my role as Philip K. Dick advocate out in the world.
Yeah.
We can talk about that if you want. I've done a lot of community. I don't know what you call it. Community network. Paul Williams, after Philip Dick died in 1982, Paul Williams was his friend. Now, I don't know if you've heard of Paul Williams or not. He invented rock journalism pretty much with the magazine Crawdaddy. He was at the bed-in with John Lennon, Yoko Ono there in Sweden or wherever it was, singing "Give Peace a Chance." Paul Williams right there. He rode into Woodstock in the helicopter with the Grateful Dead. So this guy's a famous character in his own right, Paul Williams. But after Phil died in 1982, Paul Williams assumed the role of executor of his literary estate. He bundled up all of his unknown papers and sequestered it somewhere for later discovery. And he published what was called the Philip K. Dick Society newsletter. Now this was I first read Philip K. Dick in 1984. Okay, so the second book I read was A Scanner Darkly. The first one was Eye in the Sky. So I read Eye in the Sky, blew my mind, went out the next day, bought all I could find. And I got 2 books. One of them was A Scanner Darkly, which is set there in California. And it blew my mind also. And in the front of the book, they had the address of the Philip K. Dick Society in Glen Ellen, California. I still remember it. P.O. Box 611, Glen Ellen, California, 95032. Is that right? I don't know, something like that.
Nice.
So Paul did that for 10 years, and he bought by publishing a newsletter. This is before the internet, this is from basically 82 to 92. That period when he published the 10 years he published a newsletter, and it brought fans all over the world together in a sort of community unified around what Paul is doing, and of course it spread out from there. And then I believe it's late 1991, Paul announced that he was. After 10 years, he was going to stop publishing the newsletter, and all the fans freaked out. Okay, so oh my God, what are we going to do now? So I was publishing a political zine in Indiana at the time, and I wrote to Paul and I said, "We'll do it." The most free, fateful words I've ever fucking spoken, man. We'll do it. Okay. So we did. We published a zine in, I believe, 1992, in friendly competition with a guy named Greg Lee there in California, who published a zine called Radio Free PKD. So it's 2 from the newsletter. There came 2 zines, For Dickheads Only and Radio Free PKD. So I published it and kept on publishing it, like 5 or 6 issues. I'm not too sure, maybe 7, into the 90s. And then of course everything moved. About 1999, everything sort of moved to the internet. So I published it, and now we went online, and I worked on my Pink Bean book. We went on from there, sort of thing.
Well, I mean, you've definitely you've been busy with Philip K. Dick for a long time, but you from what I've learned about you, and I want to get into you as a character quite a bit more, but you're not afraid to take on long-term projects, things that take a long time from inception to completion. And you're certainly not afraid of revision, so I want to get there. But I'd like to talk to you about, like, where are you from, man? You've been in the States since the 70s. You clearly weren't born in the 70s or in the States, so tell me a little bit about where you come from.
I'm from Ganymede.
Ganymede?
Yeah, no, actually, I was born in England, in a town called Luton.
Luton.
It's a little bit north of London in the home counties, and it was a pretty grim. I was born in '51 in Luton, right after the war. Luton was a grim, grey ass town, and all around was rubble from the war. This rubble, cranes and rubble. That's all I can remember of England in the '50s. Cranes and rubble, and dog shit all over the streets. So I was born in Luton to, I had, well, my mother and father and five of us kids. I was the second youngest. I have a younger sister. And, well, my mum died when I was 5. And my older teenage sisters, they sort of scattered themselves to the wind. And me, my brother, who was only a year or so older than me, and my baby sister Elizabeth, whereas 3 of us all of a sudden in a house being controlled by a father who works the midnight shift down as a security guard at the local factory. Okay, so things kind of got out of hand, and my baby sister Elizabeth, she was free. She was adopted to a family, off to a family, and I never saw her again. Okay, but there's a happy ending to this story. I'll get there in a minute. Fuck, why don't I get there now? Okay, so Elizabeth, I was 5. She was free. She was adopted out. Never heard boo from her or anything. My older sisters tried to find out, but we couldn't find her. Then of course, my sister, she had a son, Elizabeth. She's all now grown up. She's living in Italy. She had a son, Stefano, who lives in Italy, who did the DNA thing, and my older sister, who's since passed away, did the DNA thing, and all of a sudden everybody popped up, and all of a sudden my sister in Italy, by her son in England, discovered the USA connection. And so 67 years later, man, I reunited with my sister just 3 years ago.
No way.
Yeah, it's fucking amazing. It's like a blessing. It's like a blessing, but also it's like man, I wish my brother and my other 2 sisters could be here,
Yeah.
But they've passed on.
Did you go to see her in Italy, or where did you guys connect?
We conversation on like we are now, and writing emails and stuff, and then she actually came out and visited me for 3 weeks 2 years ago.
That's cool.
So it was a happy reunion. She's lived in Italy for 40 years. She speaks the lingo, she's a translator and a teacher of English to Italian students. But like me, she's retired, she's getting on to be 59 like me, right?
Yeah. So, did you notice anything where the things are just like undeniable traits of your family that just, is there anything that you were like, oh shit, yeah, you're my sister for sure? Or did you guys?
Well, yeah, I think both me and her, and maybe my other older sister and my brother, we sort of have this, oh, I don't know, authoritative way of speaking. Perhaps it's just the accent. People sort of, when you're talking to somebody, it's easy just to say something and just washes over them. But maybe we have a communicative ability on a sort of intense personal level. I don't know, man. Ask Paul, he knows me.
Yeah, but did you recognize that in her? Like you, the same you see.
Yeah, you don't tolerate falsity. If something seems wrong to you, call it up on the instant, sort of thing.
Nice.
It's I think it's just the British the British attitude. I mean, okay, I was born in Luton. I'm adopted. My sister's adopted out. Me and my brother, well, at least we were living on the streets, picking up cigarette butts, smoking cigarette butts. We went to right behind the house was a World War II junkyard called the 600 dump. Like, there's a big wall. We could walk out the street and we'd be in this dump, big old row houses we lived in Luton, okay? And there was all this military crap rusting away from the war. We took a little bomb, we had a little wagon, we put the bomb in the wagon, we towed it around town till it got heavy, dumped it off in somebody's yard, next day it's in the newspaper. Live bomb discovered in backyard. So things were getting out of hand, okay?
Yeah.
So what the authorities stepped in and they sent us to a convent down in Broadstairs in the county of Kent, which was happiest days of my life. From I was maybe 7 years old at the time they sent me there. 4 or 5 years. It was a convent in Broadstairs. Broadstairs was right on we could walk maybe a half a mile, and there's the English Channel. We had they had our own little beach there. I'd walk through the woods, the fields of the convent, across a road, down a little cliff, and there was the ocean. So me and Pete, my brother Pete, we go down there. The nuns let you do this shit. There's nobody over there, we're wandering around all over the place. So we go down the beach, and if we took a right turn, we'd end up in Margate, If we took a left turn, we'd end up in Ramsgate. So Margate was farther away, so we'd walk to Ramsgate, maybe 10 miles or something. Margate was 15 bags. So we'd walk back and forth, picking all the sea stuff, the seaweed and all the rack and all the shells and the fish and stuff. And of course, I got into bird watching around then, you know, thanks to the help of one of these nuns. I became a bird watcher at this convent, and I'm in bird watching heaven there on the beach in England, you know.
Yeah.
But it did not have a happy ending. After we left the convent, well, they sent us to a boarding school this is me and Pete, in London, in the East End of London, which is why I'm a West Ham United fan. Okay, soccer. I'm a West Ham fan. And so we're in this boarding school, all boys boarding school in London, from say 1962, 63 to 67 when I graduated. And this was the typical, if you ever seen I think it's Lindsay Anderson movie, If. It's all about a boys boarding school in England. This house was very similar to that, with the beatings and all the crazy crap going on, and it was a fucking nightmare, man. It was awful. It was horrible. And what it you know, you'd be standing. We had junior ROTC sort of thing, like we called it cadets. So we had a uniform, we had a rifle, you know, the Enfield 303. We'd march around and do fake maneuvers and all this. I remember one day just standing there, and one of the prefects from schools in 4 houses, okay? I was in one house, and, you know, one of the prefects, I was standing at attention in a big line, and then he just walked up and smacked me right across the face. No fucking reason. And the bullying was intense like that. And I had a couple fights protecting people from being bullied by other classmates. You know, it's like, so what this did to me, Andrew, was it gave me a real hatred of authority, and it gave me a bad attitude. And I regret my bad attitude right now, because of my bad attitude, I've turned down opportunities. Okay, so where I come from in all the life down is from this anti-authoritarian, anti-bullying sort of perspective. So I don't know what that means, but
well, I mean, it means at some point in your life you recognize that was happening. What was it in your life that turned you on to the fact that your anti-authoritarian streak was in some way fucking you over or making things more difficult for you?
Well, I was working, this is when I was in America, I was working at the Delco Electronics factory, which is in Kokomo, Indiana. Now, this is a General Motors, we made the radio, Delco Electronics, okay? We made circuit boards. It was a huge factory. I could write a book about that place, man. It would fucking blow your mind. It was so crazy. 10 years, that's all I could handle there. But anyway, I won't get into Delco, but while there, they offered me a job to become to work in a manager. You know, I'm a union electrician, okay, in this factory. They offered me a job in management as a trainer of other electricians, you know, as a trainer, okay, which I could have did. And I said, what, join management? You're out of your mind. I don't want to join, man. I'm a fucking union man. I'm a working class hero. I'm staying with a union. So I turned it down. See, there's you know, an opportunity I turned down because of my sense of, well, because I was born in the gutter in England. I was born a working class person. I'm not management material. How's that? I'm not officer material.
Mm-hmm. When did you recognize that was getting to you, though? That was, because like your opinion on it now is a little bit more enlightened. Like, okay, you can see yourself doing that, right? But at the time, it didn't occur to you. What was it that made you see that?
I don't really know. I noticed my brother Pete. He had the same sort of attitude, because we went to the same school, and he was bullied even worse than I was. He had his housemaster had our housemaster had he's a teacher. He was a chaplain at the school, and he was a religious fanatic, Church of England, okay? Rumor is he wore a hair shirt under his thing, and back then, if you ever got in trouble, they whipped you with a cane, bend over. So they did Pete was getting beat by this guy, and he was frothing at the mouth. He beat him so fucking hard. He really sort of hurt Pete badly. And so what Pete did, one night he snuck out in a bag of sugar, and he went up to this teacher's car, poured all his sugar in his gas tank, buggered off. Guy goes to start his car. He ain't going nowhere. Okay, so fuck. So they started looking for Pete, and they came to me. First they came to me with blandishments. Oh, you have some candy, Dave. Have some candy. So what do you know about this? Pete never said a word to me, so I didn't know nothing about it. I didn't know he buggered up this car. So they couldn't get nothing out of me, and Pete kept his mouth shut. He learned by then to keep his mouth shut. And he got his revenge in that way, but it turned him into he gave him a mean streak. Gave my brother a mean streak. Okay. Yeah. And so I recognized that in him, even when many years later when he came and joined me in America too. You know, we lived over here part ways. So I don't know, man. It's just a realization that comes on because I'm in a different country now, and I'm in America. Okay, I come from working class, got a snipe in England. All of a sudden, my dear sister, who'd married an American serviceman, invited him. Here's another story about me and Pete. Invited Pete, my older brother. Pete, why don't you come to America? We'll pay the way and you can come over to America. Well, meanwhile, Pete had joined the lifeguards, the elite lifeguards regiment of the British Army. Wow. And they sent him he's in Belfast. He's fighting the IRA. Wow. So I said, well, Pete's fighting the IRA. He can't come over to America. How about if I come over? Yeah. She said, okay. So I finished up my apprenticeship, which was almost about a year. So I stayed another year in England, finished my electrical technician apprenticeship. And the day I finished my apprenticeship, that night I went to my math class at the college and told the teacher, I'm going to America tomorrow. He just sort of looked at me. I got on the plane and landed in New York like everybody else, and I was in America, living now instead of living in the shithole gutter in a row house in England. I'm in the middle class in America. Wow. In McLean, Virginia.
McLean, Virginia, huh?
Yeah, but that old life, that old youth, that 20 years of the poverty, the degradation, the humiliation, the bullying, the whole shit stick that any poor fucker gets on the streets of England. I brought that with me, and I joined the Air Force as soon as I got here. 7 months later, I was in the United States Air Force.
Wow.
I thought it was my brother-in-law was in the my sister's brother who brought me over was a chief warrant officer in the U.S. Army, Bronze Stars, all bit. He'd been in there for forever. He was just a young guy, late 30s or something, but he's chief warrant officer. Worked his way up from private, and my brother's in the British Army, and I'm hanging out in McLean, Virginia, which is close to Langley and the Pentagon. Mm-hmm. So I'm hanging around all these military guys, and I finally realized, well, we're at war. We're fighting in Vietnam. Yeah. I'm going to go do my duty. So I signed up and joined the Air Force because I thought maybe they'd let me fly, but they didn't let me fly. I was on the ground in a laboratory. I was calibrating test equipment. I was a electronics test. Yeah. What they call it was Precision Measurement Equipment Laboratory. Okay. I wore white coat and calibrated shit. Okay. Right. That's what I did for my 4 years.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, what a wild thing for an admittedly anti-authoritarian chip on the shoulder guy to be like, all right, I'm going to join the military. That's pretty wild.
Really. I had a lot of friends that, I made most of my friends in McLean. I was only lived there for, like I say, 6 months before I joined the service, were the sons and daughters of people who went to Langley High School. In other words, they were military brats, CIA kids, Pentagon kids, and of course they were all getting drafted and stuff, Right. So there was a little bit of solidarity with my friends. Well, you're getting drafted. So three of us joined together. We all joined the Air Force at the same time. Wow. I lost track of these guys over the years, but so they sent me to Indiana. Man, I didn't know where the fuck it was. I had to look it up on a map. Where's Indiana? Could have been worse, I suppose.
Yes, for sure. So just in the little bit that I've gotten to know about you through Paul and your writing and what you've been up to, there's something that is particularly fascinating to me, and you do a lot of things. You write, you're an artist, you're clearly a free thinker, but when I mentioned earlier your long-term projects, this Bayou Tapestry project of yours is just incredible to me. I find the original Bayou Tapestry kind of a wild thing. Just it's this insanely large embroidery. So maybe tell everybody what this thing is that I'm talking about, yours specifically, in reference to the Bayou Tapestry, and then maybe like why did you do this amazing thing?
Well, you call it my career. There's Philip K. Dick fandom, and then there's the other stuff that I do.
Yeah.
Back in 1988, the Commodore Amiga computer came to my attention. Okay, so in 1988, I bought me an Amiga 500 computer, and along with it came a bunch of programs. Okay, and one of those programs was one called Deluxe Paint 2. This was a drawing program. Mm-hmm. Okay, I started using this program, started drawing things, and what I first did was I read a lot of Aleister Crowley, but before I discovered Philip Dick in 1984, I'd been a reader of Crowley since I was 18, and I had the Crowley tarot deck. Mm-hmm. I started drawing them, copying them onto using this Deluxe Paint program on my Amiga computer. Yeah. So I'm drawing these things in all flashing, okay? And this is where Paul comes in. I said a little sidetrack. I'll get back to the Bayou Tapestry.
No worries. I'm with you.
So I drew these things. It took a year for me to get all these done. And so what I did was I ran my computer. It had a video out. I ran it into my VHS input, put some Grateful Dead music over the top, and just recorded like 2 hours of my cards flashing and doing their thing. Okay, mm-hmm. onto videotape. And this is in 1992. Okay, when I did that. So then I managed to I lost and found the tape over the years, and then Paul visited us last summer for the Philip Dick Festival in Fort Morgan, Colorado, and I meanwhile found this damn tape and a couple other tapes, and I didn't want to go near it because, good God, it's been 30 odd years. Will this thing be any good? So I gave it to Paul. Paul very carefully put it in a machine down there in Texas, and he dubbed it, and he made it all into an MP4 file. Mm-hmm. Well, man, my carrot is back alive after 30 odd years. So I'm working on trying to get this into some sort of public exhibition here in Longmont, Colorado, cool. Maybe later this year. So that's that. So after I did that, then I knew about the Bayeux Tapestry, part of English history, William the Conqueror, conquest of England. Yeah. So I started drawing it, and that took another year. And of course, I'm using a mouse to draw with on a pad, okay? Because the embroidery to me, seen with the heavy pixels that you have using on the Amiga, that's little square blocks. I'm dealing with little square blocks, and it seems to me that the embroidery is so similar to this program, it will be a perfect thing to copy. So I started drawing it. It was fun, and I think I counted one time. I think I drew like 327 horses. Fuck.
With a mouse on it. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I did it. And
to me, it's like one of those things that the finished product pales in comparison to the effort that it took to make the finished product. You know what I mean? Not to diminish the thing that you made. It's the effort that it took to make it is as impressive, if not more so. So I like art. I love art, but I really like craft. Like, I'm a builder. I like to build things and make things. So when I can see something that took, creativity and ingenuity and just patience, that's as impressive to me as like whatever statement the thing is trying to make. So I don't know. I think just that you did that with the rudimentary tools of the day and stuck with it. How long did it take you to make?
It took me 1 year to do the tapestry.
It took a year. Okay.
After I did the tarot cards, I immediately started on the tapestry.
Okay.
So that's 2 years of my life drawing on the Amiga. I once measured myself, and I drew an inch an hour using my mouse. Okay, that's averaging it out. So we got a thing that on printout it's going to be 90 feet, because I did print it out. It was 90 feet by 11.
Yeah, that's just amazing to me, man. I love that
It's
you're.
fun, man. It really was fun.
Yeah,
I get real high and just totally
just
engross
go for it.
myself in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love that. The Bayou Tapestry, the original piece, is like this weird embroidered poem. It's got kind of a moral through line. It's a story. It's a literal story of a guy, of a hero. That kind of whole William the Conqueror is the hero. Do you feel like your work with the Philip K. Dick thing, is he your William the Conqueror? Is it like your life's work of working on Philip K. Dick? Do you feel like you're making kind of a Bayou Tapestry?
So I've always seen my role as bringing the fans of Philip K. Dick together. And,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, after I read a couple of I wanted to be a writer. I'm sitting there in my factory scribbling away in these dark corners, okay?
Yeah.
I wanted to be write a novel, be a fiction writer. Once I read Philip K. Dick, blew my mind. I said, I don't need to be a writer. Philip K. Dick has written everything I could ever possibly want to write. And so why do I need to write it when he's already written it for me? He read it for me. You understand? He read it for
Right.
me,
Right.
and it's done. I don't have to be a writer. I just have to promulgate Philip K. Dick, to have myself promulgated in a sense through him. In other words, and I'm sure a lot of fans feel the same way. He spoke for me. So my thing was, I wanted to bring the fans together, and I believe I've succeeded at this. Here we are in 2024, but in 2010, the first Philip K. Dick Festival of the 21st century is now a record, and I put that on. And it continued to 2017, 2019, 2024. So there's a history of things that had to have been done to promulgate the sense of continuity of fandom for Philip K. Dick in the United States. I just felt that what had to be done was things that you had to have. You had to have a book written. There was a basic text, like that pink beam that you have.
Yeah.
A basic reference text. This needed to be done. The festivals needed to be done. All the letter writing, all the communications over all the internet, and I'd write 50 letters a week before the internet, All this had to be done. And the bibliographies have to be done. So we're doing the bibliographies too. It's just,
Right.
you understand what I'm saying? I'm working to establish this shit that's got to be done, has been done.
Right. Right. I mean, it's not entirely dissimilar than making a cultural artifact that carries the significance of your, of William the Conqueror, or it's to make a binding mythos that keeps that community together. It just so happens that your community is a lot more relaxed than than what they ended up doing with the image of William the Conqueror. You guys are a lot more fun. I've met a handful of dickheads, and I quite like that community. You guys are all you're celebrating the weirdness of life, the fragility of the whole thing. I love the embrace of the weird of your community.
Well, and what I think I've contributed in a way is that I've always considered, and I've always said this: if you're a fan of Philip K. Dick, you're a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And this, I believe, it's like if you're a deadhead, you're a friend of mine.
Yeah.
So dickheads and deadheads are very similar in that way.
Yeah. Let me ask you something about. I mean, you've lost some family. How old a guy are you? You said you're 75.
I'll be 74 next month.
Okay.
So I'm 70.
So, there's a through line of super creative, kind of hyper creative, charged energy that came out of post-war Great Britain. I mean, from the Beatles to Pink Floyd to you name it, writers and thinkers and weirdos that came out of that very destructive, horrified and terrorized population to do all kinds of amazing art and poetry and things. But, from that comes from a place of loss. You lost your mother, you're sent out, adopted, lost your sister. Do you, you've had a lot of time to reflect on a lot of things. What has that done with your relationship with mortality, with death, with being dead forever? Where's your head on that sort of thing?
Well, when you turn to 74, you absolutely have impending death on your brain. Okay, it's just the part of getting old, I guess. When we're young, like you and a lot of people, you don't worry about it. You just put it off into the indefinite future. But time catches up with you, so you realize that, well, I'm going to be dropping dead here any minute. You know what I'm saying? And it's true. My health I'm such that I have, what do they call it? Anemia. I get up, I wobble around, I'm dizzy. I sometimes feel like I'm going to just fall down and pass out. So I have taken iron pills and all this shit.
Right.
But it's I don't know, man. I feel like I've done I feel like my work is primarily done. I've done my part. Okay, I've done my bit for Philip K. Dick, and I'm still doing it in a sense, even though not as competently or as enthusiastically as before. Because quite honestly, I think my brain is fucking starting to fade away. What do you call that? I forget what they call it. See, I even forget what the
Yeah,
name
that
is.
drives the point home perfectly if you can't remember what it's called.
Yeah. So I'm not totally fried or anything. It's just
Yeah.
when you get old, you get tired, you lack energy, and you drive your will and your purpose is still there, and you do what you can, but it's in a more limited way. I've done what I did, and we passed these festivals off to you guys in California. David Agranoff and Dickheads down in San Diego are going to put on the 2026 for the K Dick Festival.
Cool.
I hope to be there.
Nice.
And that's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how to talk about life and death. I'm just like everybody else. I don't know what the hell's going on. I've been taught by the Roman Catholic Church and the Church of England, and they're completely different, so they sort of canceled each other out. And now I just don't know what to think. I believe in Jesus, but what does that mean,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I will say there's one thing for sure that you have the coolest name. By a mile. You've got the best
That's right.
name.
It's given me strength. That name has given me strength.
I'll bet.
I mean, when I'm out there in the world or I'm writing something and I get some dickhead from somewhere saying something, I'm gonna have dealt with a lot of this garbage over the years. They say, I'm Lord Running Clam. Who the fuck are you? And it gives me strength because I know I have the friendship and the strength of the Philip K. Dick community inside of me, with me, and I'm with them. We're not a cult. We're a community.
Mm-hmm.
It's like are you watching that? You ever see that? I'm watching it right now. Me and my wife, Yellowstone. That cowboy.
I haven't seen it. I hear it's great.
Well, it's all right, but it's all about the ranchers. Big huge ranch in Montana. The Native Americans want their land back. The land developers want to move in and build condos. Okay, so there's this three-way battle going on, and they're all ruthless as hell.
Yeah.
But the boss of the ranch, he brands his workers. Big old Y on like a horse.
Yeah.
You're one of us. Now you're one of us. We take care of our own.
Nice.
And that's how I feel about Philip K. Dick. If you're a Philip K. Dick fan, I'll go to the fucking mattresses with you.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, look, I'm a Lord Running Clam fan, for what that's worth. And
thanks, man. I didn't know I had any fans.
yeah, you've got two of them in this room, and that that's 100% of the people in this very office are your fans.
All right, yeah, I'm all for that. Yeah, great.
I just I like your style. I like what you've been up to in your life, man. I mean, you did all this raising a family. Like I'm always reminded, like whatever's going on in my life. I've been married for 20. Well, I've been married for 15 years, but with my wife for like over 20 years, and we have no kids. We have an old dog, and anytime I'm like, man, always such and such is difficult or whatever, I'm reminded, wait, there are people out there doing that with children. Like I can't even, one kid is just mind blowing to me, but never mind four, and four kids to look after in your life. That's to do that and all the other shit you did, to me, is just incredibly impressive. So,
Well, this I believe, Andrew, However you do it your way. But to me, this abusive upbringing underwent, and this poverty, it sort of lit a fire in me. So I'm not gonna, I'm gonna go. I told Paul, you go straight ahead. You go straight ahead. You don't wobble around people. You go right over the motherfuckers. They get in your way. You go straight ahead because of a sense of righteousness in your actions. In other words, when me and Barbara and Reverend Dr. X were doing that Ganymede and slime ball thing, you should read my book about it. Out in the world, we were righteous as hell, man. You know, we were doing crazy shit, but we got away with it because we can do it.
Yeah.
So the bad attitude. I wanted to be a writer, okay, but I also, in England, even though you're a poor kid, once they get you into once the authorities get hold of you and they put you through the system, they'll beat a good education in you, okay? So they beat a good education in you with their canes and their bullying. They beat a good education in you. And they also raise you to be an Englishman. In other words, even though you're a gutter snipe, you represent England in a sense. You're a gentleman. So I always felt, I don't know, man. I always wanted to be a scholar too, which is what I'm more of a scholar, as a scholar with Philip K. Dick, than I am a fictional writer. So I'm a scholar, and over the years I've had to deal with many professors and other scholars and writers and all of this, and I always wanted to be considered one of them. You know, I want to know these people, be friends with these people, and I've done that. I know a lot of writers, a lot of professors, and they know who I am. You know, I mean, I'm not just here in the USA, but they're all over the fucking place.
Yeah.
So I've achieved what I wanted to be, which was basically a writer, but a scholar type writer. Well, I don't know what they call that.
Yeah.
A professor.
Yeah.
But I never went to college, so I can't call myself a professor.
Well, you've definitely are a gentleman and a scholar, you know, for what it's worth. Look, you've done the work, man. You know, you've done the work. A title, you know, they're great. It helps, I suppose, but you've done the work, you know, and you're respected and well liked, and that's cool.
That's what I've ever wanted, and I look back at what I've done. Most of what I wanted to do is not. It had to be done. It's something that had to be done, and well, like somebody said to me, well, you stepped forward and did it. I said, yeah, well, I guess I did.
You did.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm not done yet. Like I said, there's a million things coming on my mind. I've got Cliff Jones' manuscript here. I'm going to do a review right here. He's one of these young up and coming writers. I've got this manuscript. It's double-sided, that fat. Okay, so I'm going to read through this and make comments.
I mean, that's an honor, man. For someone to send you specifically their manuscript and get notes, like that's a huge honor, you know.
I agree.
You know what that's about.
Writer.
Yeah, you know what that's about. Like to send, if you've written something and you send it off to somebody, you tremendously respect that person. So that's an honor, you know.
I've always had look at my coffee cup.
Gloomy.
That's kind of like me, okay?
That's your man. Let me ask you one more question before we sign off, man.
All right.
Is there, and I know this is like kind of unfair to just throw this at you, but take your time in the answering. Is there any like piece of advice or wisdom or a warning or anything that you would want to say to future generations, people that maybe aren't even born yet, or that are out there and just trying to figure it out? What would you tell them?
That's not an easy question to answer. I can only tell from my own experience. I would tell any young person living today. I don't know about distant future people, but I would say to these young people today: follow your passion. Do what you want to do. Don't do what somebody else wants you to do, which is what happened to me. I'm in a fucking factory for 40 years, okay? Don't do what somebody else wants you to do. Number one, you're not going to make any money at it working for somebody else, okay? You're not. All you're going to do is survive. And you're not going to do what you want to do. So do what you want to do. And you can do it like I did it within the system, despite the system, and having to do all this. I mean, I'm in the factory writing this stuff up, and I'm hiding in corners writing it up. I'm using their electric typewriters. I'm going up to the third floor on the middle of the night because I work the second shift when there's nobody around, and I got these great big huge IBM copiers. I'm printing off copies of my zines, you know, on the sly. It's that whole way of doing things. You have to do it. You got to do what you got to do. So to you young people out there, do what you want to do. Fuck everybody else. If you want to go to goddamn Alaska and birdwatch, go to Alaska and birdwatch. Wish I'd have did that. You know, and you always meet opposition, but your opposition, you take them on where they come from. You know, if somebody wants to attack you intellectually, you take them on intellectually. If somebody wants to attack you physically, you take them on physically, or you know, that sort of thing. But and persistence is the main thing. You got to keep at it. You got to have your passion has to carry you through. I've been passionate about Philip K. Dick since I read Eye in the Sky in 1984. Okay, so boy, that's 40 years, right? 40 years. I'm still, whilst Paul, I'm still passionate about it. Yeah. And he's done some great interviews with me too. You know, he's a good interviewer.
Yeah, he is.
I'm glad you guys are together, and I'm not sure exactly what you're doing, but I wish you success.
Thanks, man.
Keep doing it, man. Do what you want to do.
We're doing it. There's nobody's asking us to do this. This is our idea.
Good.
And what's wild is the thing that brought us together is Philip K. Dick. And I'm not a dickhead. I don't consider myself a dickhead. I mean, I like the guy's writing. I've certainly enjoyed the movies. But it was going to a party at David Gill's house where I ran into Paul. And
you know David Gill?
I do know David Gill. He was the last guy that I interviewed before you. So there's little concentric circles of Philip K. Dick fandom that have brought together my current business venture, my new friend, new friends. You know, it's a great thing. So your good work goes on, man. It's affecting people, you know, out here, all over the world, I would imagine. So, thank you.
Well, yeah, man. Let me just say one thing. Whatever I do from my passion, or any Philip K. Dick fans do from their passion, it's the recognition of Philip K. Dick as being such a great writer that his words that he wrote back in the 50s, 60s, up to 1980 are supremely relevant today. I've just got done reading The Penultimate Truth. Now, you should read that novel right now, because it's totally applicable to what's going on politically right now in the world. I won't go into it, but I just recommend that you read it. And Philip K. Dick is relevant in many ways because he called himself a fictionalizing philosopher. And, you know, his interest in Gnosticism, religious matters, he's a Christian, and, you know, well, fuck it, man, the guy's all over the map, but his mind is very confused. but in that confusion there is the truth, and and this is what any good writer, to my mind, you always have to write the truth.
Yeah.
There's a fiction.
You know, it's that embrace of confusion, to be honest with yourself that you're confused, and to admit to yourself, okay, I don't really know. I just want to explore these ideas. If you're just presenting what you think is the penultimate truth, which I imagine there may well be a question mark implied in a book called The Penultimate Truth from a guy like Philip K. Dick. If you're just presenting what you think is for sure the truth, I'm skeptical of that. But if you're presenting me a question mark, I'm all ears. You know?
Well, I guess what I mean by the truth is that the thing has to be true to itself.
Yeah.
Whatever you say, whatever you write, tell the truth, man. And whatever it is you do, it has its own truth.
Well, man, I really appreciate you taking your time and telling me your story and sharing with me some personal, highly personal stuff. And I know, you know, I'm honored by that you'll share that with me. So thank you.
Well, I thank you for your interest. I don't consider myself anybody. I just did what had to be done, and in this small world of Philip K. Dick, okay, I did what had to be done in my little world. But in the world at large, what I've done is be a factory worker. So
That'll
I
do.
found my niche, I guess.
Yeah, you did, man. All right. Well,
Thanks,
cheers, man.
Andrew.
It's
I
good talking to
appreciate
you.
it.